What is the difference between Process and Object Studio? And Process Studio. Process Studio is the workspace where the flow of the process is defined. When a page of a process is run, it will run from the main page irrespective of whatever the page you are in. Object Studio. Object Studio is the workspace where the objects of the applications have interacted. When a page in the object is run, it will run only the current page. What are the stages available in Object Studio that is not available in Process Studio? And Navigate stage, Read stage, Write stage, Code stage, Wait stage. What is the difference between the defined and undefined collection? And in the defined collection, the fields inside the collection are set prior to the run, whereas in undefined collection no field is set prior to the run. The fields are populated in runtime. What is environmental logging? And this is a feature which prevents multiple bots from accessing the same path of a process. A token is generated in environmental logging which allows only one bot to access. What are the different modes available for object spying? And HTML mode, Win32 mode, Accessibility mode, Region mode, UI automation mode. What is a thin client and thick client? And the thin client is the application from which we cannot get many attributes of an object. Only region mode can be used in thin client applications. Citrix, Oracle-based applications. The thick client is the application from which we can get many attributes of an object. We can use any mode in thick client applications. Internet Explorer, Calculator. What is the use of work queues? And work queues are used to break a large volume of work to small volume, and multiple bots can be used so that the time consumption can be reduced. What are types of modes available for an object? And foreground mode, background mode, exclusive mode. What is the extension of a release? And release. What is the use of initialize and cleanup in Object Studio? And initialize and cleanup is the pre and post conditions which will execute at the start and end of the object respectively. It cannot be called through action as it will run automatically when a particular object is called. Get Blueprism online training. What are the languages that can be used in the coding stage? And C#, Visual Basic, J#. What are the types of debugging techniques available in Blueprism? And Step, it executes each and every stage. If it encounters a page, process or an action, it enters inside and executes. Step over, it executes each and every stage. If it encounters a page, process or an action, it does not enter inside but still executes over the page. Step out, it executes everything that is available on the current page. What are the ways to expose data item? And environment variable, session variable. What is environment variable? And this is a type of exposure and data item where the value of data item can be changed without opening the processor object. Environment variables will be available in System tab under Process section. What is session variable? And this is a type of exposure and data item where the value of data item can be changed during runtime. Session variable can be changed in the control room while running the particular process. What are the best practices in Blueprism? And exception handling, it should be used in an efficient way to handle the error wherever it is possible. Work queues, usage of work queues to reduce the time. Wait stage, in region mode, wait stage should be used wherever the screen changes. Anchor stage, it should be used wherever possible so that the processor object looks readable. What is the difference between global send keys and global send key events? And Global send keys are the high-level interface which sends keystrokes to the active application, whereas global send key events is a low-level interface which mimics keyboard keystrokes in the operating system. It is used on thin client applications like Citrix. How to invoke JavaScript in Blueprism. And JavaScript can be invoked through Navigate stage in Object Studio. What are the disadvantages of surface automation? It uses screen coordinates to click on objects, so accuracy will be very low. If the target application is not active, there is a possibility of global send keys passing the values to the wrong application. How to publish a process to control room. A process can be published to control room by opening the process information box in the main page and checking the box Publish this process to control room. Explain on a session in Blueprism. Session is an instance created when you start running a process on a selected resource. Explain the difference between session and an environment variable. Session variable is a variable whose value can be changed for every session. An environment variable is a variable whose value can't be changed till the resource stops the execution of the process flow from control room. Where will you declare session and environment variables? Session variable is declared inside the process or object by selecting the exposure to session. Environment variable is declared in system outside any process or object, and once declared, need to select the exposure to environment and select from the drop-down available and name of the data item. Explain the interface, infrastructure of Blueprism. Blueprism have 6 parts separated in its infrastructure. A. Home, B. Studio, Process, Object, C. Control Room, D. Analytics, E. Releases, F. System. Explain Control Room. Control Room is one of the infrastructures of Blueprism in which we control the process through session management, queue management and scheduler. Use of scheduler. Scheduler is to schedule the robot process based on the input availability. What is the format of file import, export from, to Blueprism? XML. How will you run the process developed on your machine in others' machine in standalone deployment? Giving a BP release and importing it into the local machine. Types of data items. Unstate, B, datetime, C, text, D, password, E, time, F, image, G, binary, H, number, I, timespan, J, flag. How will you access single variable in all pages in a process, object? By unchecking hide from other pages. Get Blueprism 100% practical training. Explain the default pages of process, object. Process, main page/object, initialize and clean up. Differences between functionality of process or object. Process, hierarchical/object, parallel pages execution. Differences between process and object stages. Navigate stage, wait stage, write stage, read stage, code stage will be available in object but not in process. Alert stage will be there in process which is absent in Object Studio. Differences between global and local variables. Global variables, visible through all pages in the process, object. Local variables, visible only to the page. Which part of the Blueprism interacts with applications? Application modeler. Differences between page reference and action stage. Page reference, to use the page inside of object or process. Action, to call a business object from object or process. Explain the concept of environmental logging. Environmental logging comes into picture in case of multi-bot architecture. How match index is unique. Match index makes a automation spy unique as it makes the modeler to spy the same kind of blocks unique. How to write a value into an application without using write stage. Navigate stage using global send keys, we can write the value to the application. Difference between global send keys and global send key events. Global send keys, alphabets and numeric values, global send key events, function keys and predefined functions, different run modes, and exclusive/foreground and background run modes. Delay, sleep can be achieved through wait stage. String functions are defined on which data type. Text. Where can you see the log of the process run? In view log option, in session selection. How to view stage logging. In edit, select all stages or selected stages to view them in the log. Question: consider the scenario, if the calculation 1 have exception and it goes to recover and the calculation 2 also have exception, what is the correction in this flow to go through in stage without exception? Keep a resume stage after recover 1 stage to process the stages successfully till end. What is the action used to tag an item in work queues? Tag item in work queues object. Are nested blocks allowed in Blueprism? No, nested blocks won't work in Blueprism. How do you spy an element in Blueprism? Control plus left mouse click. How do you change the spy mode when spying an element in Blueprism? Alt key. Different modes of spying an element in Blueprism. 1.html mode, 2. Win32 mode, 3. UI mode, available in BPv6 and above, 4. Region mode, 5. Active accessibility mode. How can we exit the spy mode in Blueprism? Control plus right key. 56. What is the function used to go for stop parameters? Is stop requested? 57. What are the kinds of stop available in Blueprism in control room? Immediate stop and request stop. 58. Which are the languages used in coding stage in Blueprism? C#, Visual Basic, J#. 59. Which stages helps in taking 2 or more decisions at a time? Choice stage. 60. What are the different kinds of status symbols of AI available in the queue management of Blueprism? Exception, completed, pending, locked. 61. What is recovery mode? Recover and resume together called recover mode. 62. What are the types of exceptions and the differences between them? System and business exceptions and the differences. 63. What is defer and its functionality? Defer is an action in work queues, and when we use defer is to run the process after some time span. 64. Which are the exception functions we use generally? Exception details and exception type. 65. Why Blueprism? A. Good for mass scale deployment of large number of robots. B. Higher cost of acquiring and using BP. C. Limited training available as the only source of training is BP. D. Training cost of Blueprism is too high. 66. Stages in RPA lifecycle? There are 4 phases of RPA lifecycle. 1. Deployment and maintenance. 2. Bot development. 3. Testing. 4. Analysis. 67. How many start and end stages will be there in each page of process, Object Studio? Start, only 1, and end stages, many, depends on the design of the process. Where will you generally define the credentials and how will you use them in Blueprism? Credential manager in system and with the object called credentials, and call get action in the object to define the credentials in Blueprism. 69. Name the stages which are present in Object Studio but absent in Process Studio. Read, write, navigate, code, wait stage. 70. Can we publish objects into control room? No. Right click on actions and click on publish to make it available to PS but not to the control room. 71. Can we publish process into control room? Yes. In PS go to main page, double click on information stage, check the option called publish the process to control room. 72. What is step over and step out? These are the different modes of debugging the process or objects. Step Step functionality will execute each step at a time and provides the result. Step over functionality will execute each stage at a time and provides the result. Step out functionality will execute all the stages and ends at the end stage without actually showing the functionalities. Inside each stage in provides the result. Breakpoint, when we set breakpoint processor object will run just before that stage completely. Breakpoint will not work if you run the process from control room. Set next stage, run to the stage. 73. Can we delete the process or object from the studio when it is executed at least once? And, we cannot delete the process or object from the studio. If we want to delete, go to System Archiving, check the option called Blue Prism Database. Then go to Studio and right-click on the process or object and click on Delete. It will delete now. 74. How many applications can be configured in one object? And, only one application can be configured in Application Modeler. It will not allow us to configure more than one application. But we can override or replace existing configuration with new configuration. 75. What is version control in BP and how versioning will happen in BP? And, in BP, when you are saving the process or object, it will ask you to provide edit summary. This will be appeared in the studio. This will maintain the version control or version history. 76. What are the data types available in BP? And, there are 10 data types. Date, datetime, time span, text, number, image, password, binary, flag. 77. What are startup parameters or input parameters? And, the input data or the parameters that can be passed before we executing the processes from the control room. These parameters are called startup parameters. 78. What is exception bubbling? And, the bubbling up of the error from lower end towards the layers of solution and handle the error is called exception bubbling. 79. How to automate Excel applications? And, we can use 3 methods to automate Excel applications. 1. By using VBO-MS Excel VBO- and using actions like create instance, show, open workbook etc. to launch the application in PS. 2. By configuring the Excel.exe file path in the OS and launching the Excel and attach. 3. By using VBO-OLED and providing the provide name like database path of the Excel, and provider and extended properties. 80. What is the difference between Get Worksheet as Collection and Get Worksheets as Collection Fast? And, Get Worksheet as Collection will have input parameters like workbook name, worksheet name and handle, and Get Worksheets as Collection Fast will have no inputs and collects the data whichever sheet is currently active. 81. How do you handle more than 1 lakh or 1 million records in the Excel sheet? How do you automate the Excel? And, if you have more bots configured, then each bot will pick one record at a time and process the records. We have to work queue concept for processing each record at a time. 82. Name some of the actions that you have used in Excel VBO. And, create instance, show, open workbook, open instance, create workbook, create worksheet, get worksheet as collection and collection, fast, write collection etc. BP is one of the RPA tool available in the market. We can design the processes in terms of flowchart representation connecting stages. We have Process Studio and Object Studio modules for configuring different type of applications in OS and integrating it in PS, followed by business rules. BP is a software which sits on the user machines and automates the repetitive tasks and front-end applications like Windows, Web, SAP, Java etc. and exactly behaves as a human user. Advantages: BP Robot works 24/7. Time is drastically reduced when compared with manual process. So that more volume of inputs can be automated with greater speed. Greater cost reduction. Eliminating manual effort or FTE, full-time employees, and replacing with bots. Efficiency and more productivity. Solvability. No changes in infrastructure. Reliability and data security. Disadvantages. Speed of the process depends on the behavior of applications. E.g., PDF download takes 10 minutes, then speed of the application. In VDI environment, development will become very slow. 83. How do we automate web application? And we have to configure Explorer in OS choosing application type as browser-based applications. We use HTML mode to identify the elements. 84. How do we automate Java-based application? And we have to configure Java application in OS choosing application type as Java-based application. We need to enable Java Access Bridge in Windows system. 85. Input and output parameters? Outlook to web application. And input parameters are the parameters which we pass as an input from one page to another page. If we are sending any parameters to any action, we have to specify within the start stage. Output parameter are the parameter which we get output from a page or stage that can be configured in end stage. 86. What is the difference between ordinal and match index? And these two are the attributes presentation app modeler when we spy the elements of an app. Ordinal defines the position of an element. Match index is used to search for an element from top to bottom of the screen. Match reverse search for an element from bottom to top. 87. What is exposure of data items? And 3 types. Static. When we set the data item exposure as static, then the data item can be used for reporting purpose. Environment. The data item used as an environment variable. Session. The data item can be used as a session variable. 88. How can data item set as global variable, or what are local and global variables in BP? And when a data item visibility checkbox is checked, then data item is called local variable and can only access within the same page. Global variable can access in any number of pages within a process or object. 89. Alert stage is used for notifying the specific outcome of each process. And action stage is used for calling the business objects and actions. 90. Business object are 2 types. Un's internal bow, it is inbuilt within the action stage collections, work queues, environment locking, credentials and encryption. And external bow, are the bow which we import or we create in bow. 91. What is conditional wait and arbitrary wait? And in a wait stage, if we provide any conditions to wait for any element to appear, then it is called conditional wait. Wait stage without any condition is called arbitrary wait. 92. Difference between collections and data items. And data item can initialize only one data value at a time, but whereas the collection can initialize more than one value at a time. Collections are used within a loop stage, but data items are not used. 93. Stage logging? And we have 3 types: enabled, disabled, errors only. Stage logging is a feature that hides each stage not to visible in the stage log viewer. 94. Exception handling. When error occurs within BP business process, these error has to be handled in order to make the process complete. And for exception handling we use recover, resume and exception stages. 95. Difference between resume and recovery. And recovery stage is used to catch the exception and diffuse the error, resume stage is used for containing the flow of execution. 96. Global mouse click center and press are used in the navigate stage, and their purpose is to click on any of the buttons of the app. And mouse click center is used when the app is in focus. Press is used even though when the app is not in focus. 97. What is the difference between immediate stop and request stop? And immediate stop: when requested in control room, the process stops exactly on the stage where it is executing currently. Status of the process in control room shows as terminated. When request stop is clicked on, control room is stop requested function becomes true and will stop the process after one complete cycle of execution. Status of the process in control room shows as completed. 98. How can we launch the app without using the application modeler? And by using the navigation stage we can pass the path of an app as an input. We can also use start process action from utility environment VBO. 99. A block is used to isolate an area of a diagram that a recover stage is responsible for. And without a block, a recover stage will handle any exception on that page. When a recover stage sits inside a block, it will only catch exceptions in that block and ignore all others. 100. Defined collection is a collection where we create fields and initialize values to that fields. And undefined collection is a collection where we do not create any fields, but these collection are output for an action and can contain the values in the current values tab. 101. Credentials are set of username and password used by the Blueprism process and object to access target application. And these credentials are created in the System Manager area. When they are created against a credential key in order to encrypt the account information. When it being utilized by a process or object. These credentials are bound to an unique key and their authentication within Blueprism is dependent on it. 102. What is work queues? And the most efficient way to deploy multiple bots is to use work queue feature and Blueprism at work. Queue is basically a list of items which one or more bots can pick up the input and process them. Queue not only allows you to use multiple machines, but it also processes multiple records and to get output. And to know success or failures. Which we cannot be done by loop stage. 103. How to enable and disable logs? And the runtime resource will log many types of information into any session logs by running an instance of process. Go to Settings, Resource, Management, right-click on it, and check Write Activity Log to Event Log. We can set logging level as well here, like log memory usage and log service communication. 104. What is Login Agent? How you used it? And the Login Agent software provides a mechanism for securely logging into Windows desktop device for the purpose of executing Blueprism process. 105. What is attach? And if it is Windows/Java/HTML type application, user is promoted to state whether the application will be running or not. This decision that subsequent buttons say launch or attach, or detach or terminated. When you are using mainframe application, this choice is not the same as mainframe is always considered to be running. You don't specify in the app modular whether you are going to connect to already running mainframe. Therefore the resulting buttons in app modular will always be launch, or terminate. Which stage is necessary to catch exception? UNS recovery stage. 107. What is the purpose of using blocks? UNS the blocks is a way of using multiple stages of recover on the same page. 108. Explain process followed in your RPA project. Explain the RPA lifecycle. UNS discover phase, solution design phase, development phase, coding, @ go live phase, run phase. 109. What is the purpose of preserve checkbox in Blueprism? UNS the new exception, the exception what we have written in exception stage, is generated when the preserve checkbox is not ticked. By default it is not ticked. 110. Environment variable. UNS this variable is available to all business objects and process. This is only read-only.